Captain Juan floated in the command chair of his patrol ship, watching the stars through the main window. Kepler Station hung in the distance like a metal flower blooming in the darkness. It was humanity's farthest outpost, sitting at the edge of known space where no human had ever gone before. "Another quiet day?" said Nari from her seat at the communications desk. She brushed a strand of black hair from her eyes and checked her screens for the 100th time. "Sometimes I wonder if we'll ever find anything out here." Juan smiled. "Be careful what you wish for. Quiet is good in space. Quiet means everyone goes home safe." He had been running these patrol routes for 3 years now. Every day was the same. Check the sensors, look for asteroids that might hit the station, make sure no pirates were hiding in the asteroid belt. It was boring work, but someone had to do it. Dr. Yuna looked up from her science station. "Actually, I like the quiet. It gives me time to study the data we collect. Do you know we've found traces of organic compounds in 17 different asteroid samples this month?" "Organic compounds are everywhere," Nari said. "That doesn't mean aliens." "Maybe not," Yuna replied. "But it means life is possible out here. And if life is possible, then maybe somewhere—" She never finished her sentence. The ship's alarm started screaming. Juan's hands flew to his controls. "What do we have?" "Unknown contact," Nari said, her voice tight with excitement. "Big signature, bearing 27 Mark IV. It just appeared on sensors." "Appeared? From where?" "I don't know. 1 second there was nothing. The next second there was something huge." Juan felt his heart start beating faster. In 3 years of patrols, they had never found anything bigger than a space rock. "How big is huge?" Nari's eyes went wide as she read her screen. "Sir, it's showing as 8 kilometers long and 3 kilometers wide. That's bigger than anything we've ever built." "That's impossible," Yuna said, moving to look over Nari's shoulder. "No human ship is that large. Are you sure your sensors are working right?" "I've checked them 3 times. The contact is real." Juan brought up the main display. A red dot pulsed on the screen, sitting about 50,000 kilometers away from their position. The computer showed its size as a long oval shape, much bigger than even Earth's largest battleships. "Could it be a new human ship?" he asked. "Something they didn't tell us about?" Nari shook her head. "I'm not getting any human ID signals, and look at this." She brought up a new screen. "The shape doesn't match anything in our database. It's strange." The B image that appeared made them all stop talking. The ship looked like a giant spiral shell, with smooth curves that twisted around each other. The surface seemed to shine with its own light, like metal that was somehow alive. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "I've never seen anything like that," Yuna whispered. "The design, it doesn't look like human engineering at all." Juan stared at the image. His training told him to report this to Kepler Station immediately. But something else told him to be very careful. If this wasn't a human ship, then it was something else. Something alien. "Nari, try to contact them. Use standard first contact protocols." "Yes, sir." Nari's hands moved over her controls. "Unknown vessel. This is the human patrol ship Discovery. Please identify yourself. We come in peace and wish to communicate." They waited. The seconds stretched into minutes. The alien ship hung in space, silent. "Try again," Juan said. "Different frequency." Nari tried 5 different radio frequencies. Then she tried light signals. Then she tried every form of communication the ship had. Nothing worked. The spiral vessel remained silent. "Maybe they don't want to talk," she said. "Or maybe they can't understand us," Yuna added. "Their technology might be completely different from ours." Juan was about to order a retreat when his sensors detected movement. 3 smaller objects separated from the main ship. They were heading straight for Kepler Station. "Contact the station," he ordered. "Tell them we have unknown ships approaching. 3 vessels, possibly hostile." Nari's fingers flew over her keyboard. Station Command, this is Discovery. We have 3 unknown contacts heading your way. Speed is... Oh no. What? They're moving at .4 light speed. They'll reach the station in 20 minutes. Juan felt ice in his stomach. At that speed, the alien ships could destroy Kepler Station before anyone could react. Thousands of people lived on that station, scientists, engineers, families, all helpless against technology they didn't understand. Orders from Station Command, Nari reported. They want us to return immediately. Juan looked at the display. The 3 alien ships were small compared to the mother vessel, but each one was still larger than his patrol ship. If they were hostile, his little ship wouldn't be able to stop them, but if he ran back to the station, he would just die with everyone else. Sir? Nari asked. What are your orders? Juan made a decision. That would change everything. Instead of running away, he turned his ship toward the approaching alien vessels. We're going to intercept them. Sir, that's suicide, Yuna said. We don't know what their weapons can do. Maybe, Juan replied. But if they wanted to destroy us, they could have done it already. They're heading for the station for a reason. Maybe they want to talk. And if they don't? Juan strapped himself into his chair and engaged the ship's engines. Then at least we'll meet them on our terms, not theirs. The patrol ship Discovery accelerated toward the 3 alien vessels. Behind them, the massive spiral ship watched and waited. In a few minutes, humans and aliens would meet face to face for the first time. Neither side knew what would happen next, but Captain Juan was about to find out. The 3 alien ships stopped moving when they saw Juan's patrol vessel approaching. They hung in space like silver teardrops, their surfaces smooth and flowing like liquid metal. Juan had expected weapons to appear or shields to activate. Instead, the ships just waited. They're not attacking, Nari said, her voice full of surprise. Maybe they're curious about us, Yuna suggested. We might be as strange to them as they are to us. Juan kept his ship moving forward slowly. His hands were ready to turn and run if the aliens showed any sign of hostility, but the 3 ships remained still and silent. New contact, Nari announced. One of the alien ships is launching something small. It's heading our way. On the screen, a tiny object separated from the nearest alien vessel. It was no bigger than a shuttle, moving slowly and deliberately toward them. Should I raise shields? Nari asked. No, Juan decided. If they wanted to hurt us, they wouldn't send something so small. I think they want to talk. The small craft approached until it was only a few hundred meters away. Then it stopped. For several minutes, nothing happened. Juan was beginning to wonder if he had made a mistake when his communication system suddenly came alive. Greetings, young travelers of the stars. The voice was clear and musical, speaking perfect English, but there was something strange about it, as if the words were being translated from something completely different. This is Captain Juan of the human patrol ship Discovery, he replied. Who am I speaking to? I am Velthara of the Keth Mori. We have been watching your species for some time. You have grown much since we first noticed you. Juan looked at his crew. Yuna was recording everything, while Nari checked and rechecked their communication systems. This was the moment humans had dreamed about for centuries. First contact with an alien race. You've been watching us? Juan asked. For how long? By your measure of time, approximately 400 of your years. We watched as you learned to fly between your worlds. We watched as you built your first stations in the void, and now we watch as you reach toward the deeper darkness between the stars. Why didn't you make contact before? There was a pause. When Velthara spoke again, her voice carried a weight that made Juan's chest feel tight. Because contact changes everything. Once a species knows they are not alone, they can never go back to what they were before. We have learned to wait until the moment is right. And you think the moment is right now? Your species has reached what we call the threshold. You have spread beyond your birth world. You have begun to explore the vast emptiness between stars. You have developed weapons that could destroy your entire planet. Yet you have chosen not to use them. These are the signs we watch for. Yuna leaned forward. Signs of what? Signs that a species is ready to learn about the galactic community. The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Galactic community. That meant there were others, many others. How many? Juan asked. Currently, there are 1,437 species that belong to the community. Each one passed through the same threshold your species now faces. Nari's hands shook as she adjusted her controls. What kind of threshold? A test, Velthara replied. Every species that wishes to join the community must prove they are worthy, not through conquest or displays of power, but through something much more difficult. What do we have to prove? Juan asked, though part of him already feared the answer. That your species possesses the quality we call essential worth, the ability to grow beyond your limitations while remaining true to what makes you who you are. That sounds complicated. It is. Many species fail this test. Those that fail are contained within their home systems until they either destroy themselves or evolve beyond the need for contact. The coldness in Juan's stomach grew worse. And if we refuse to take the test? Refusal is also a form of failure. Species that refuse are isolated permanently. They are allowed to exist, but they can never leave their home system. They become prisoners of their own fear. Yuna spoke up. What exactly is this test? The crucible of essence. One representative from your species must enter our vessel and face what lies at its heart. If they succeed, humanity joins the community. If they fail, we become prisoners, Juan finished. Yes, the silence that followed was deafening. Juan felt the weight of his entire species settling on his shoulders. Everything humanity had worked for, everything they hoped to become, now depended on a single test that they didn't understand. How long do we have to decide? He asked. 72 of your hours. Long enough for your leaders to choose a representative and prepare them for what they must face. Can you tell us anything about what the test involves? The crucible reads, the essence of whoever enters it. It sees not just who they are, but what their entire species could become. It judges whether that future is worthy of the stars. And if the crucible decides we're not worthy? Velthara's voice became very quiet. Then your representative joins the others who failed. Their essence becomes part of the crucible itself, and their species is marked as unfit for the community. Juan felt sick. You're talking about sacrifice. All growth requires sacrifice. The question is whether your species is willing to risk one life for the chance to touch infinity. Why one person? Yuna asked. Why not a group? Because the crucible judges not just intelligence or strength, but the essential nature of a species. That nature is best seen in a single individual who represents all the rest. Choose wisely. Choose someone who embodies what humanity truly is, not what you wish it could be. The communication fell silent. The small alien craft began moving back toward its mothership. Wait, Juan called. How do we contact you with our decision? We will know, Velthara replied. The one you choose must come alone to the great spiral, vessel. When they approach, we will bring them inside. The alien craft rejoined its companions, and all three ships began moving back toward the massive spiral vessel. In minutes they were gone, leaving only the enormous mothership hanging. In space like a question mark against the stars. Juan turned to his crew. Nari was pale and shaking. Yuna was frantically checking her recordings as if she couldn't believe what she had heard. Did that really just happen? Nari whispered. It happened, Juan confirmed. Now we need to get back to the station and report. This to Earth. The leaders need to know they have less than 3 days to choose someone to represent our entire species. Who could possibly be qualified for something like that? Yuna asked. Juan looked out at the spiral vessel, still glowing with its strange inner light. I don't know. But I hope we choose the right person. Because if we don't, humanity's journey to the stars ends before it really begins. The news spread across human space faster than anyone thought possible. Within 6 hours of Juan's report, every major news network was broadcasting the story. Humanity had made contact with aliens, and now they faced a test that would determine their future among the stars. On Earth, the Unified Command held emergency meetings around the clock. Politicians argued, generals planned, and scientists tried to understand what the aliens wanted. Everyone had an opinion about who should represent humanity in the Crucible. Admiral Kyung was the most popular choice. He had won the Titan Wars, saved 3 colony worlds from destruction, and never lost a battle. Military leaders insisted that strength was what the aliens wanted to see. Dr. Minho was another favorite. He had solved the fusion power crisis, written 12 books on human philosophy, and spoke 7 languages. Scientists argued that intelligence was humanity's greatest asset. Some suggested President Sora, the leader of the unified Earth government. Others wanted to send a child, thinking innocence might impress the aliens. A few extremist groups demanded they refuse the test entirely and fight the aliens instead. On Kepler Station, Juan watched the debates with growing frustration. He had seen the alien ship, talked to Velthara, felt the weight of her words. The politicians and generals didn't understand what they were really facing. They're all missing the point, he told Yuna, as they sat in the station's observation deck. The spiral vessel hung in the distance, unchanged and waiting. What do you mean? She asked. Listen to what Velthara said. The Crucible judges the essential nature of a species, not our strength or our intelligence, but who we really are. Yuna pulled up her recordings of the alien contact. She had listened to them dozens of times, trying to understand every word. She said to choose someone who embodies what humanity truly is, not what we wish it could be. Exactly. But look at who they're considering. They're all choosing based on humanity's greatest achievements. Our best general, our smartest scientist, our most powerful leader. Isn't that what we should do? Send our best? Juan shook his head. I don't think so. Think about it from the alien perspective. They've been watching us for 400 years. They've seen our wars, our mistakes, our failures. They know we're not perfect. Engineer June entered the observation deck, carrying a cup of coffee and looking tired. He had been working non-stop to analyze the alien ship's energy signatures. Any luck figuring out how their technology works? Juan asked. Not really, June replied, sitting down heavily. Their energy patterns don't match anything we know. It's like they're using completely different laws of physics. Maybe they are, Yuna suggested. A species that advanced might have learned things we can't even imagine. June nodded. That's what scares me. How do you pass a test given by beings so far beyond us? It would be like an ant trying to impress a human. Maybe that's the wrong way to think about it, Juan said slowly. An idea was forming in his mind, something that had been bothering him since the contact. What do you mean? Yuna asked. Velthara said the Crucible has tested many species. Some passed, some failed. If it was just about being advanced or powerful, wouldn't all the advanced species pass and all the primitive ones fail? You would think so, June agreed. But that's not how she made it sound. She made it sound like the test was about something else. Something that doesn't depend on how smart or strong you are. Communications specialist Rena entered the deck, looking excited. Captain, you need to see this. I've been monitoring the alien ship, and I found something strange. She activated a portable screen and showed them a series of wave patterns. The ship is broadcasting on frequencies we shouldn't be able to detect. Our equipment isn't designed for these wavelengths, but I modified the sensors and managed to pick up fragments. What kind of fragments? Yuna asked. That's the weird part. They're not normal radio signals. They seem to be memories. The three others stared at her. Memories? I know it sounds crazy, but that's what the patterns look like. Emotional states, sensory impressions, fragments of experiences. It's like the ship is remembering things. Rena brought up more displays. I've been analyzing the patterns for hours. I think these are memories from other species that took the test. The ones who failed. Juan felt a chill run down his spine. How many? Hundreds, maybe thousands, all different, but they all end the same way, with fear, pain, and then nothing. Yuna leaned forward to study the data. If these are memories from failed tests, then maybe we can learn from them. Find out what went wrong. That's what I thought, Rena said. So I started looking for patterns in the species that failed, and I found something interesting. She brought up a new analysis. Every species that failed sent someone who represented their civilization's highest ideals. Their greatest warriors, their wisest leaders, their most perfect examples. That doesn't make sense, June said. Why would sending your best be wrong? Because maybe the test isn't about being the best, Juan said quietly. Maybe it's about being real. The others looked at him. In the distance, the spiral vessel continued its silent watch. Think about what Velthara said. The crucible judges what a species could become. If you send someone who represents only your best qualities, you're not showing your true nature. You're showing what you want to be, not what you are. So what should we send? Rena asked. Our worst qualities? No, someone who represents all of us, good and bad together. Someone who shows that humanity isn't perfect, but we keep trying anyway. Yuna pulled up the news feeds from Earth. The debates were getting more heated. Some groups were demanding Admiral Kyung, others insisted on Dr. Minho. A few suggested lottery systems or democratic votes. They're going to choose based on politics, she said. Not on what's actually best for the test. Maybe, Juan replied. But they still have 48 hours to decide. June finished his coffee and stood up. I should get back to work. If we're going to send someone into that thing, I want to make sure our equipment can monitor what happens. As he left, Rena showed them more of her analysis. The memory fragments told a story of species after species making the same mistake. They all sent representatives who were meant to impress the aliens, not represent their true nature. There's something else, Rena said quietly. I found traces of successful tests too. Only a few, but they're there. What made them different? Yuna asked. The successful species didn't send their heroes. They sent ordinary people who understood what their species really was. Not perfect, but honest about their imperfections. Juan stared out at the alien ship. In less than 2 days, someone would have to enter that vessel and face whatever waited inside. The future of humanity depended on that choice. But as he watched the debates rage on Earth, he began to realize something troubling. The leaders might choose the wrong person for all the right reasons. They would pick someone impressive, someone qualified, someone who made humanity look good. And if Rena's analysis was correct, that choice would doom them all. We need to make sure the right person goes, he said finally. What do you mean? Yuna asked. Juan looked at his reflection in the observation window, superimposed over the image of the alien vessel. I mean, we might have to make the choice ourselves. With 12 hours left before the deadline, Earth Command made their final decision. Admiral Kyung would represent humanity in the Crucible. The announcement came with fanfare and ceremony, broadcast to every human world and station. But Captain Juan was no longer listening to Earth Command. He stood in the shuttle bay of Kepler Station, checking the systems on a small transport craft. Yuna, Rena, and June watched him with worried expressions. This is insane, Yuna said for the 10th time. You'll be court-martialed. Your career will be over. My career won't matter if humanity fails the test, Juan replied, running through the pre-flight checklist. And they will fail if they send Kyung. You don't know that, June protested. Maybe the Admiral is exactly what we need. Juan stopped working and looked at his friends. Rena, show them the memory patterns again. Rena reluctantly activated her portable display. The wave patterns from the alien ship painted a story of failure after failure. Species after species had sent their greatest champions, only to have them consumed by the crucible. Every successful test came from species. That sent someone ordinary, Rena explained. Someone who represented their whole civilization, not just the best parts. Admiral Kyung is a hero, Juan continued. He's brave, skilled, and honorable. But he's not representative of humanity as a whole. He's what we aspire to be, not what we actually are. And you think you're more representative? Yuna asked. Juan considered the question seriously. I think I understand our flaws better than Kyung does. I've made mistakes. I've been afraid. I've failed at things that mattered. But I've also kept trying, even when it seemed hopeless. That's not enough reason to disobey direct orders, June said. Maybe not, but it's enough reason to try. A communication alert chimed on the wall panel. Nari's voice came through the speakers. From the station's command center. Captain, I'm showing Admiral Kyung's transport approaching the station. He'll be here in 6 hours. Understood, Juan replied. He turned back to his friends. That gives me 6 hours to reach the alien ship first. This is suicide, Yuna said. You don't know what's waiting inside that thing. No one does. That's why someone has to find out. Juan finished his preparations and climbed into the transport's pilot seat. The small craft was designed for short-range cargo runs, but it would get him to the spiral vessel. If I don't come back, he said through the open hatch, tell Earth Command what we learned from Rena's analysis. Maybe it will help them understand why I did this. You're coming back, Rena said firmly. You have to. Juan smiled at her confidence, wishing he shared it. Take care of each other. He sealed the hatch and started the engines. The transport lifted off the station deck and headed into space toward the waiting alien ship. The journey took 40 minutes. As Juan approached the spiral vessel, he was amazed again by its size and beauty. The ship's surface rippled with patterns of light that seemed to move like living things. It was both mechanical and organic, as if grown rather than built. When he was still several kilometers away, his communication system activated. Captain Juan, Velthara's musical voice filled the cabin. You are not the one your leaders chose. No, Juan replied. I chose myself. Why? Because I think your test isn't about sending our best. It's about sending someone who understands what we really are. There was a long pause. You would disobey your own authorities for this chance? I would disobey anyone if it meant saving my species. Even if it cost you everything? Juan thought about his career, his friends, his future. All of it would be lost if he was wrong. But if he was right, none of that mattered compared to humanity's survival. Yes. Very well. Approach the central opening. You will be brought inside. A section of the spiral ship's hull began to glow brighter. As Juan watched, the metal simply flowed apart like water, creating an opening large enough for his transport. Inside, he could see a docking bay filled with the same flowing organic light. He piloted his craft through the opening and felt the alien ship's systems take control. The transport settled gently onto a platform that seemed to grow up from the floor to support it. The docking bay sealed itself behind him. Atmosphere readings showed the air was breathable, though it smelled strange, like flowers he had never encountered. Juan left his transport and found himself in a corridor that curved, gently upward. The walls were covered in the same living light patterns he had seen on the ship's exterior. They pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. Follow the lights, Velthara's voice came from everywhere and nowhere. "They will guide you to the crucible." Juan walked through corridors that seemed to reshape themselves as he passed. The ship was definitely alive in some way, responding to his presence. The thought should have been terrifying, but instead he felt strangely calm. After several minutes of walking, he emerged into a vast chamber at the heart of the ship. The room was spherical, with no clear floor or ceiling. Crystalline formations jutted from every surface, each one glowing with different colors. "Welcome to the Crucible of Essence," Velthara said. Her physical form appeared near the center of the chamber, tall and graceful with skin that seemed to shift between different metallic hues. "Those crystals," Juan said, pointing to the formations around the room, "are those the remains of those who failed the test. Their essence becomes part of the crucible, helping it to judge future species." Juan counted dozens of crystals. Each one had been a living being once, someone who represented their entire civilization's hopes. "What exactly is the test?" he asked. "The crucible will show you the truth of your species. Every achievement, every failure, every moment of greatness and shame. It will judge whether humanity deserves a place among the stars based on the totality of what you are. And if I fail," Velthara gestured to the crystals, "you join them, and humanity remains isolated until it destroys itself or evolves beyond. The need for contact." A new presence entered Juan's mind. It was vast and ancient, touching his thoughts with fingers made of starlight. The crucible was awakening. Images began flooding his consciousness. He saw humanity's history in fast forward. Wars and peace treaties, discoveries and disasters, moments of incredible kindness and terrible cruelty. The crucible was reading not just his memories, but the collective memory of his entire species. Why? "Do you seek the stars?" the crucible asked in a voice like cosmic wind. "Because that's what we do," Juan replied. "We explore, we grow, we reach for things beyond our grasp." "You wage war upon each other. You poison your own world. You create weapons that could destroy everything you claim to love. Why should such a species be trusted with the galaxy?" The images grew darker. Juan saw every human conflict, every environmental disaster, every act of hatred and ignorance. The weight of his species' failures pressed down on him like a physical force, but he didn't try to deny them. "Because we recognize our failures," he said. "We know we're not perfect, but we keep trying to be better. Many species claim to be improving. Most lie to themselves. Maybe. But look at our history. Really look at it. Yes, we fight wars, but we also make peace. Yes, we make mistakes, but we learn from them. Yes, we can be cruel, but we can also be incredibly kind." The crucible pressed deeper into his mind, searching for deception or self-delusion. Instead, it found something unexpected: complete honesty about humanity's nature. "You acknowledge your species' darkness?" "Of course. It's part of who we are, but it's not all of who we are. Other species have claimed the same." "Then let me show you the difference." Juan opened his mind completely, showing the crucible not just humanity's failures, but their responses to those failures. He showed rescue workers risking their lives for strangers. He showed scientists sharing discoveries freely. He showed ordinary people choosing to do the right thing, even when it cost them everything. "We don't claim to be perfect," he said. "We claim to be trying, and we never stop trying, even when we fail." The crucible fell silent, processing what it had seen. Around the chamber, the crystals of failed species began to resonate with a low humming sound. For the first time in its existence, the crucible had encountered a species that embraced its flaws as part of its strength. The silence in the crucible chamber stretched for what felt like hours. Juan stood surrounded by the crystal remains of failed civilizations, waiting for judgment. The ancient entity that was the Crucible processed everything it had learned about humanity through his mind. Fascinating, it finally said, its voice carrying notes of something Juan had never expected to hear from such a being. Surprise. What is fascinating? Juan asked. In 10 million years of testing, no species has ever acknowledged their failures so completely while still defending their worth. Most try to hide their darkness or claim it no longer exists. Others become paralyzed by guilt and accept failure as deserved. The crystals around the chamber began glowing brighter. Juan could sense something changing in the vast intelligence that surrounded him. You show me wars, and in the same breath, you show me those who work for peace. You show me environmental destruction and immediately follow with those who fight to heal the damage. You show me hatred, but temper it with love. Because that's what we are, Juan replied. We're not one thing or the other. We're both. We're all of it. Yes, the Crucible said, and for the first time, its voice held what sounded like admiration. You are a species that contains multitudes, light and dark, wisdom and foolishness, creation and destruction, and you have learned to see all of it clearly. Velthera appeared beside Juan, her expression unreadable. The Crucible is experiencing something new, she said softly. In all our time as guardians, we have never seen it react this way. What does that mean? Juan asked. The Crucible answered directly. It means your species has passed the test in a way no other has before. Not only are you worthy of joining the galactic community, but you offer something we have been searching for across the cosmos. What's that? The wisdom to grow through failure rather than despite it. Most species that reach the stars do so by overcoming their darker nature. You have achieved it by accepting and integrating your darkness as part of your strength. The chamber began to change around them. The crystals that contained the essence of failed species started to pulse in rhythm, as if responding to some unheard music. There is more, the Crucible continued. I offer you a choice that has never been offered before. What kind of choice? You may take humanity's place in the galactic community as originally planned, or you may accept a different role entirely. Juan felt a tremor of uncertainty. What different role? Become partners with us. Help us reshape how emerging species are tested. Your species' unique perspective could help others find their own path to the stars. Velthara stepped forward, her metallic skin shifting to show surprise. That has never been offered before. The Crucible has always worked alone. Because I have never encountered a species capable of true partnership, the ancient entity replied. All others were either too primitive or too advanced. Humanity exists in the perfect balance point between growth and wisdom. Juan thought about what this meant. Instead of just joining a community of advanced species, humanity could help guide other emerging civilizations. They could share their hard-won knowledge about learning from failure. What would this partnership involve? He asked. The spiral vessel would become humanity's first embassy to the galaxy. You would help evaluate other species using your unique understanding of growth through adversity. Together, we would develop new ways to test worthiness that honor both strength and vulnerability. And if I refuse, then humanity joins the community as any other species would. You would be welcomed and respected, but you would remain students rather than teachers. Juan closed his eyes and thought about his species. Humanity had always been defined by its willingness to explore, to push boundaries, to try new things even when the outcome was uncertain. This offer felt like the natural next step in that journey. I accept the partnership, he said. The moment he spoke, the entire chamber erupted in light. The crystals of failed species began to resonate with harmonious tones, as if they were singing. The Crucible's presence in his mind intensified, but instead of feeling overwhelming, it felt like coming home. What's happening? Juan asked. The Crucible is sharing its accumulated knowledge with you, Velthara explained. Every test, every species, every lesson learned across 10 million years. This knowledge will help you guide others. Information flooded into Juan's consciousness. He saw civilizations that had achieved incredible technological advancement but lost their capacity for empathy. He saw others that had developed profound wisdom but lacked the courage to explore beyond their homeworlds. He saw the delicate balance required for a species to truly thrive among the stars. Why did so many fail? He asked, as the knowledge settled into his mind. Because they thought the test was about proving their perfection, the Crucible replied. They sent representatives who embodied only their highest aspirations, but perfection is static. Growth requires the ability to acknowledge flaws and work to improve them. And the ones who succeeded? Like humanity, they sent individuals who represented their complete nature. They understood that worthiness comes not from being flawless, but from being authentic and committed to growth. The light in the chamber began to fade to a gentle glow. Juan felt changed by the experience, carrying new knowledge and responsibility. But he also felt fundamentally the same person who had made the choice to come here. What happens now? He asked. Velthara smiled, the first truly warm expression he had seen from her. Now we begin the real work. There are 17 species, currently approaching their threshold moments. With your partnership, we can help them find their own paths to the stars. Will I be able to return to my crew? My friends will be worried? Of course. The spiral vessel will take a position near your Kepler station. You will serve as the bridge between humanity and the galactic community. As they left the Crucible chamber, Juan thought about how he would explain what had happened. His disobedience of orders would likely cause a diplomatic crisis. Admiral Kyung was probably already demanding his arrest, but none of that mattered compared to what humanity had achieved. They hadn't just passed the test. They had redefined what the test could be. 6 months later, Juan stood on the observation deck of humanity's new embassy vessel, watching as another species approached their threshold moment. The Vex were a proud warrior race who had built their civilization on conquest and strength. They're going to send their greatest champion, Rena observed. She had joined the embassy staff as communications officer, along with Yuna and June. Probably, Juan agreed. The question is whether we can help them understand what the test really measures. Admiral Kyung, who had initially demanded Juan's court-martial, had eventually come to understand the magnitude of what had been achieved. He now served as humanity's military liaison to the galactic community. The Vex representative is approaching the test chamber, Yuna reported from her science station. Juan activated the communication system that connected him to the Crucible. Are you ready to try our new approach? Yes, the ancient entity replied. Instead of simply testing their champion, we will show them the choice between perfection and authenticity. On the screen, they watched as the Vex warrior entered the test chamber. But this time, the Crucible would offer them a chance to see their own species truly, failures and triumphs together. Do you think they'll choose differently? Rena asked. Juan watched the proud warrior face the same choice he had made months before. I don't know. But at least now they have a real choice. The Vex warrior emerged from the chamber 3 hours later, changed by the experience. He had chosen to represent his species' complete nature, not just their warrior traditions. The Vex became the 14th species to join the community using humanity's new model. As Juan filed his report, he reflected on how much had changed. Humanity hadn't just found their place among the stars, they had helped reshape what it meant to be worthy of that place. The galaxy was learning that strength came not from perfection, but from the courage to grow through imperfection. Standing alone before the spiral vessel that day, Juan had made a choice that changed not just humanity's future, but the future of every species that would follow. He had shown the universe that being human meant being flawed, striving, and endlessly committed to becoming better than what you were before. and the stars themselves had listened.